Hello, guys. Keats here. I'm just talking about today. We're just going to talk a little bit about mental health. Um, being that we've had a few people sort of talk to me over the last few days about mental health, I thought I'd make another video, sort of what it looks like to sort of be coming out of it, right? So 4 or 5 months ago, I was 4 or 5 months ago, I was probably in the gutter um, of the end, but little did I know I was coming right. So I had my breakup, and that sent me off the deep end where I didn't think I was coming out of it. Being the last sort of thing that sort of I thought put the nail in my coffin, but for some reason, still really don't know what sort of kept me going, and that gut wrenching feeling that you wake up with every day with someone that you spent so much time with, and all the betrayal and all the stuff that comes with that, that was there. And in that moment, I didn't see a way out, and I didn't want to feel what I felt. But today, I want to talk about that. That was only 4 or 5 months ago, right? 2 months after it all, I had gotten the mindset that I was coming out of this. So 6 to 8 weeks time after the breakup, I was coming out of this, and I was starting to refine myself, get my life back. I surrounded myself with my family and my friends. I reconnected with people from 14 years ago, that were good to me in high school, that were good, and I surrounded myself with really good people. And I was at the stage where I knew if I didn't change, if I didn't try to make a change, that I would kill my family. It's not so much about killing yourself. You kill your family when these type of things happen. And the guilt that you would leave people behind, even the guilt that I would leave my ex-partner, I would not wish that upon anyone. The fact of the matter is that just because she did what she did doesn't mean it's all her fault. In fact, I'd say 20% is the revenue of my pain at that time, but all the stuff before it was what drove me to the place I was at. It's like I said in the last video, it's a number of things. It's not just one. It's not just the breakup. It's not just losing your kid, and it's not just anything that happened that seemed small when I was 17 years old is huge now. All the stuff that I experienced when I was 16, 15, being on the streets as a 15-year-old is, at the time, wasn't a big deal, as crazy as that may seem. But now looking at it as a 27-year-old and seeing what a normal life sort of looks like, that is not the normal thing, right? And I wasn't on the streets because of my parents. I was on the streets because I chose it. I chose that direction in life. I was getting bullied at school. I didn't have a good relationship with my parents at that stage of my life, but in no regards is it my parents' fault. I needed to start again, and at 15 I had no clue what I was doing, and then I was on the streets, I was in and out of shelters. That has a big part. Being a young dad has a big part of your mental health. For so many years, I was able to bury whatever I was feeling at 15, 14, 16 years old, and when my daughter was born, it all went away. And I didn't realise I was going to feel that way because I was 16. I didn't really feel like a dad until I was 21, 22 years old, and by that stage, the corruption within my daughter already had started. So all these little things are what, for my personal experience, I would like to hear everyone else's personal experience in the comments. If you feel like not saying something in the comment section that's not going to be big, the moment you start talking about it, I mean, I remember being drunk so many times in the last year and a bit where I would go into a streamer's comment section and air my grievances and talk to them. Now, if you go into a big streamer's comment section and try to comment something, he's probably not going to see it. But I follow a lot of like low end streamers that, you know, don't have 25k viewers in their chat. They've got 150, 200, you know, sort of stuff, which is just a community in the end, not a whole fan base, which is what we would be aiming for. That is the goal, not to get 50k viewers, etc. on a stream. That is the goal. That will always be the goal. It's just to have a community, a basics, that this isn't just a WoW channel or a gaming channel. It's also somewhere you can come and you feel safe, and that you can talk about stuff. I remember I won't name the stream just due to my own personal reasons, but I went into a stream and I talked about my feelings. I talked about how this stream has helped me, which it had, and it was the start of rebuilding. And obviously, what I'm trying to say is little things do add up, whether they're bad or good. In my case, I had a lot of bad things happen, which led to me going to the spot, and then I was really vulnerable, and then the breakup happened, obviously, which had a lot of effect. I didn't know if I wanted to feel that pain anymore, and in a very graphic way of sort of having to be restrained by my own parents because I didn't want to be here anymore. Something that you can't really explain mental health to someone that doesn't have mental health, but these days everyone has mental health of some variety, and I don't feel like an expert. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I'm just speaking from my own experience and what I've seen in other people's experiences. Now, I'm a very heart on my sleeve sort of guy. So some people aren't like that. You don't want your emotion to be shown. But in my case, everyone knew the change within me 4 years ago because I wasn't hard on my sleeve. I wasn't talking. I wasn't showing my personality, which you guys are yet to see, really. You're seeing this nice persona where I'm still warming up to the internet. I'm still warming up to my own stream. But there is a personality. Like, I'm a nice guy. I think I'm a nice guy. But there is a personality to me, of the personality side of me that plays a sort of character that is borderline funny or just energetic. That part comes out when I'm off camera. You know, it's not a bad side. It's just a very energetic side, and I hope you guys get to see that at some point, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's over there on Twitch. But I'm more or less haven't shown that because I'm not comfortable enough yet. But I am comfortable enough to share these serious subjects about what mental health looks like in the trenches, pretty much, right? What that looks like and how short a term it was. So I struggled for the 4 or 5 years, but I also had glimpses of myself. You know, after I lost my daughter, I went into a dark place, and I came back out of it. I went and played football, and I had a great season, and I had a great time. And then when the season ended, it unfortunately ended one day before Father's Day, and that is where I can trigger and look back and say that was my turning point. That's when things went downhill for me. I wasn't the same after that. Father's Day was always going to be hard, but I wasn't the same after that. And 2022 was the worst year of it all, but the last 2 years have been equally as bad. Like 2022 and 2023 were really bad. And what I'm trying to get across here is that as bad as it was, I'm still here. And anyone out there that is struggling, even on the minute level, struggles look different in different people. That's what makes us humans, because we're struggling differently. I'm an energetic guy. I'm charismatic in sometimes. Like, I can be very charismatic when I want to be. When that goes away, you don't recognize who you are. And what I've identified for 27 years, and at that point I was 25, was a part of who I was. And I needed to refine that. And it's taken a long time, and I'm still trying to refine it every day. And I have strategies in place to make sure that I don't fall back down. It's also important that it's okay to have a mental health day. It's okay to just know that today's not your day, to weather it, wake up tomorrow and try again. It's just about, it's like you make one mistake, you just make sure you don't make 2 or 3 or 4. If I woke up on a Monday and I wasn't feeling myself and I just wanted to lock myself away, then I lock myself away, and then on Tuesday I wake up and I do something different. I've noticed the small details that some people don't notice. I had a bad mental health day probably 3 or 4 days ago, and I accepted that day was not something I wanted to really go outside and do anything, and I just wanted to be left alone because I needed to do it my way, and I needed to want to do it my way as well. So the principle of it all is basically that day that I had a bad mental health day, I didn't have a coffee at all. That may seem really minute, not important at all to anyone, but the next day I had a coffee, and my day was different, completely different, almost bipolar in a way. And one of the things to know is that sometimes you don't need a whole day to recover. Some mental health days last an hour, 2 hours now. As prior, 5 months ago, it was lasting years. It was lasting months. Before the breakup, in that period of time, the last time I was truly happy was when I was at the football clubs and I was around some mates. And then when reality kicked in and the season was over and all of it had been gone, that was the last time I was truly happy. Until now. I'm really happy now. But one of the things that I sort of was leading you to is it took 2 months after the breakup for me to find out I made the person in my head the enemy. As instead of protecting her and pretending that everything was going to be okay, I came to the term that she wasn't the good guy in this scenario. Nor am I the victim. No one's to blame in that regard, but I made in my mind that she had done the wrong thing by me, and to stop making excuses. It doesn't have to be an ex-girlfriend. It could be anyone, a friend in your life. If they are a poison in your life, you have to exercise the right method. And because you're emotionally connected to that person on a different level, I didn't rely on her as much as I thought I did. And I don't think I relied on her as much as she thought I did. I understand the breakup. I don't understand the rest of it. And I'm not going to go into detail. I'll let you sort of figure it out. It's sort of common sense if a relationship sort of goes that way, and I'm talking about betrayal and stuff of that nature. I'm not here to shame her, because I hope she feels enough as it is. And I don't really like to talk about the relationship because I'm past it now. I mean, it's been 5-6 months maybe now. So it took about 8 weeks. I made in my head that I got to stop making excuses, and then I took 2 weeks to sort of figure it out, and then I just blocked her on everything. I just got rid of her. I found out some truths. I found out some things I shouldn't have really found out. The lying just kept going. So I exercised the necessary plan, which was to get rid of her out of my life. And I'm not saying she's a bad person. It's the choices that people make. And sometimes these choices have real effects on people like myself. And now, after I blocked her, I went through a depression phase because you're ending a chapter. But by Christmas, I was sort of feeling really good. And the first time I had felt this strong and passionate about something, which was coming back to streaming. And you would have noticed that I stopped streaming around Christmas time, actually, even maybe before, which is when I was dealing with all of these processes in place. And I want to reiterate, I'm not trying to blame her. Hence why I'm not sort of naming her name, because I don't want any hate on her. I'm past it now. There have been a lot of people in my life who have wronged me. She's just the last one that has done it. And I've wronged myself too. It's not blaming. I don't want to blame people for why I was the way I was. I'm not here to blame anyone. I would love it if people took responsibility, so that would be nice. But I don't blame her. I don't blame my daughter. I don't blame the mother of my child. I don't blame anyone really. I'm 27 now, and I want this to mean something. And so when I came out of what I came out of, I felt like I almost woke up from a coma. I was aware of everything that happened, but I'm a completely different person to what I was even maybe 8 weeks ago, let alone 4 months ago. So I'm here to say to anyone that is in that space that I was 5 months ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I'm out of it now. And I'd love to help anyone with mental health. I don't consider this just a gaming channel. I consider this maybe something more. And I love sitting here chatting about things, talking about stuff like this. This is serious sort of subject stuff. You will come out of it eventually. And sometimes you won't know why you came out of it. I don't know how I came out of mine. I still think back of what really got me through it, those nights when I was by myself, and I could have just, ended it. But I didn't, I just went to sleep. And eventually, like I said, it took about 2 months of suffering. And I found my way out. And then by the new year, I was just different. I woke up a couple of days into the new year in January to just being in a completely different mindset. I wasn't vengeful. I wasn't angry about what had happened or why things have happened. I'm accepting what it is, because it is what it is. It's life is just unnecessarily not fun sometimes, and maybe I'm at the most mature stage I've ever been at, and maybe I'm willing to accept that the ex relationship, although it lasted a long time, didn't define that we couldn't make change, and that change needed to happen at that stage of my life. I was going around and around and around in circles for the last 4 years. I blame myself a little bit for that, but I don't love her. I don't really have any feelings towards that person. Certainly not romantically. But like I said, I made her an enemy in my mind. I put her in that section. And eventually, all the people I've put in that section eventually just come out of it, and I stop caring, like worrying about at all. I don't worry about it. It's the change that I needed. And the person that I knew 8 years ago wasn't the person that was before me at that time. She had changed dramatically. I had changed dramatically. I went from this judo state champion guy, really fit, ripped sort of guy, right? And all the stuff that had happened to me in my life at that point started to pile up, and I didn't know how to handle it. Guys generally don't know how to handle with real emotion like that, and that's the point, is that guys, girls need to be there and sort of talk. I've always found it easier to talk to females about my feelings. I think that's just, I don't know if any other guys sort of feel that way, but I certainly feel that way. I certainly feel like my emotions are easier to project to a female than a male. I find some males just, a lot of males really just don't know how to react to that situation. Because guys generally don't open up to guys, for the most part. I find now that I'm in a stage 5 months removed from not just the relationship. It's so minuscule, the relationship. At the end of the day, this can sound really brutal and maybe hurtful to the person, but she was just a girl. Like, she was just a girl that I loved and that I didn't love anymore. I thought I did. And when the breakup happened, I thought I wanted to get back together, and I thought that's what I wanted. But it's so minuscule. She was just a person that I loved and that I don't anymore. And maybe I didn't want for a long time. My anxiety relied on her presence. And now I've found new meaning to my life. I do wish her the best in maybe truly I don't, but I do wish her the best in her new life. But that's sort of something I'll come to terms with, and then maybe the next few years where I'm not sort of got her as an enemy on one side. They eventually all move across to the other side, and that's where I accept everything that sort of happened. With every partner I've ever had, they were always on this side at the end of the relationship, and they moved over to this side when I stopped worrying about it as much. And I don't really worry about it now, but time does mend a lot of wounds. So one day I'll never probably talk to this person again, but most importantly, it's important to know that when you come out of this stuff, you will feel better. One of the reasons I think, I don't really know why I'm still around, but this sort of stuff, I feel like my family had a great impact. Like seeing my mum cry over me not being here anymore, my dad cry, who I never really see cry, the concern on my brother, and I think just in general seeing some real emotion. I was at an emotional state where I was pushed to my most heightened emotions, and when my emotion came out, that's sort of what I think back to now, is that before I wasn't showing any emotion. I was just cold the whole time, turned off almost. And that was the beginning of change, I think, when I was showing that I cared and that I was hurt and that's when the change sort of happened. But you will go for a period of time if you go through a breakup or you lose a family member or whatever. In my experience, I didn't eat for a long time. I lost like 10 kilos because I just couldn't eat, couldn't sit there. It was like someone had died almost. So it's not as easy as just sort of making up your mind that this person's done wrong to you. You have to go through a process. And when a family member dies, you have to go through a process. And I think the best thing that sort of kept me going is that dog that's sitting on that bed over there. Her name is Ellie, and she's kept me going too. You know, someone that I have that relies on me. She's given me that fatherhood back that I miss so dearly. Also, obviously, like I talked the other day, World of Warcraft sort of saved me in that regard too. Like, I get to escape all that pain that I feel as soon as these go on. All those voices and all those bad thoughts that happen, you don't hear them anymore. You hear that music, you get into the game. There is no other game, I think. I was thinking about this the other day after I made the video. There is no other game that as soon as these go on, it's done. I can't hear anything. And like, now I don't need the game to do that right now because I'm in such a good spot. I'm mentally better. I'm physically fitter than I've been in a while. Like, I'm not going out to the gym or anything like that. These things I've gone out and done, I've always had someone there with me. So the next challenge is to go to the gym by myself and do the things that I want to do by myself. And whether I work again or I don't work again, it's all about surviving and enjoying quality of life. Because for the longest time, I didn't see a quality of life, and I had a 5-year plan in place where I'll give it another crack. And if I was no better, then I knew my answer. And my answer now is that 5 months removed after all that stuff, you know, I'm 100% better. But you also, once you're into the stage that I'm in, you also got to understand that it's not gone. Your mental health never goes. All the things that you've seen or done or heard or had done to you, you can't think of yourself as a victim. The moment you do that, the moment people just really don't give a fuck. There is accountability and responsibility you have to take as a person. There are some things that are much more out of your control. It's not so much labeling yourself as a victim, but if people don't hear that you're taking responsibility, I'm taking responsibility for a lot of things. Like, I was a father at 16, I have to take responsibility for that. I was a father again at 19, I have to take responsibility for that. I take responsibility for the way my relationship ended. I take responsibility for living on the streets. Those are the things that you have to do. And the moment that you start accepting that it's not everyone else's fault, but it's also, you know, you have part in this. You know, the percentages you can break down. Some things cheating, you can't. That's not your fault, ever. When it comes to cheating, that's never your fault. Stuff inside of relationships, it's 50-50. It's always 50-50. In most regards, a lot of things can be your fault, but when it comes to someone hurting you, you can't control that. You can control a lot of things in your life, but that's not one of them. So I want to wrap up the video, and I just wanted to talk about the process I'm in right now, and talk about why I'm in the stage I am now, and that the fresh start is sometimes what you need. I didn't trigger that fresh start, but it was triggered, and it took me 8 weeks. There is no time for you to get better, because 4 years prior, it took 4 years to get here. Right? It took a long time, and the grind never really stopped. But the thing that is easy for me is just getting on the game and really enjoying myself, really living gaming. My goal from this is to be a full-time streamer, a YouTuber. I've spent so much time gaming the last 4 or 5 years that this is the smart option to do. I'm not treating it as a job because it's fun to do. Even, in 5-6 years time, if this thing blows up, it blows up. If it doesn't, then I'm just doing this as a mental health strat that helps me get through it. I don't like going to talk to a counsellor, so refer to yourselves as my own official sort of counsellors. And maybe we can start a podcast talking about, well, anything really, World of Warcraft related, mental health related. Those 2 areas I feel pretty strongly about. Mental health, I'll always try to keep a balance of talking about these things. Not to be related that I'm a professional of anything, but I would like to say that I have had my own experiences, and if I can help anyone out there, I'm happy to do so. So anyway, guys, if you are experiencing difficulties, let me know in the comments, message me, DM me. I'll leave my socials in the description. And I'm always here to help and talk about things that you need to talk about. Anyway, guys, this Keatsy, not a Keatsy video. Hopefully I can keep bringing you a video every day. Alright, guys, thank you very much. See you.